Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sea Otter exhibit. My name is Micalah. I'm currently standing up here on this mezzanine level behind most of you all, waving my hand. Just wanted to say a quick good morning. We're going to be feeding our 4 sea otters on exhibit right at 10:30. And if everyone could just double check that there are no small children or folks in strollers or wheelchairs behind you, just to make sure they all get a great view from up close to those windows. If you can't see right at those windows, I've also changed the monitors up above you to give you a better view of this exhibit. And again, we will get started with this feeding session right at 10:30. So stick around with me and I'll be back on mic in just a few minutes. Well, good morning again, everyone. Welcome to our Sea Otter exhibit. If you are just joining me, my name is Micalah. I'm currently standing up here on the mezzanine level behind most of you all. Y'all are here at the perfect place at the perfect time, as it is about time for a feeding and training session for our 4 southern sea otters on exhibit. Today on exhibit, we have 4 of our 5 otters. We have Ivy, Rosa, Ruby, and Kit. And I will kind of point them out to you once our trainers come into this exhibit, as each otter has a specific station that they actually go to during these feeding and training sessions. We'll notice when the trainers come out, they will have buckets of food on their hips, and each one of them will be working with a specific otter. Not only offering them food, but asking them to do different behaviors. These training behaviors really help with that relationship that these otters have with our trainers, both on and off exhibit. These are important things to have, as our otters sometimes do come behind the scenes or move around in the exhibit space itself. And here come our 4 trainers now. Each one of them is going to call the otter that they are working with over to their specific spot to make sure that they all are getting their delicious food. So starting on the far left-hand side of this exhibit, we have Kit. On the right of Kit, second over from the left, is going to be Ruby. Right on the right-hand side in the middle still is Rosa, and then far right-hand side is Ivy. Now, you may be wondering how I can tell them apart. The easiest way for me is actually the blondness that they have. Each one of our otters has a different level of blondness. If we start with Ruby on that back deck there, you'll notice she has little to no blonde on her whatsoever. I'm referring to the color of her fur that she has there. She is our youngest otter and also our darkest otter. And so she is looking really great with that dark brown fur coat all over her. You'll notice she's working with a trainer using a target there. She is actually having a target training for some eye drops. Now, these eye drops are not medicated at all. They really are just to practice in case we needed to give her eye drops for anything. Now, you'll notice in the water on the right-hand side, kind of in the middle, coming onto that back deck now, we have Rosa. Now, Rosa has quite a bit of blonde on her head, but it kind of stops right at her head. It doesn't go down very far. On the left-hand side, closer to the windows right now is Kit. Kit, I can tell apart because she is our largest otter out of all of the girls that we have. Not only is she our longest otter, but she also weighs the most at about 52 pounds. Now, a typical female sea otter would weigh about 40 to 60 pounds, so she is right in that middle range. And then the far, far right-hand side of the exhibit is Ivy. Ivy's our blondest otter with that blonde going from the tip of her head down to about her belly button. Now, we've got a lot going on in the exhibit right now as each of our trainers is working with their specific otter, asking them to do recall behaviors or even move to different areas throughout the exhibit. As they do them, what we will do is we positively reinforce our otters by offering them their favorite foods. These include things like clam's tongue and shrimp and maybe even some squid. Now, each one of these foods are able to act as that positive reinforcement. These otters do a behavior we ask, and then they get rewarded with their favorite food. Now, on exhibit here, they are only getting what we call soft foods. Again, that's clam's tongue, shrimp, and squid. In the wild, they would typically eat benthic invertebrates, or animals found on the bottom of the seafloor without a backbone. Typically, these are in a hard shell. You can think of it as an abalone, an urchin, lobsters, different delicious foods like that. Now, the reason why we aren't giving them those foods on exhibit is actually because the first instinct these otters will have is to go to a place where they can break open that food item. And it turns out in this exhibit, their favorite place to do that is the windows that you all are looking at. So they would come right up to the windows to break open that food and thus scratching the windows, meaning none of us would be able to see our otters. So what we do instead is we give them those hard-shelled food items behind the scenes. We even sometimes will give them different toys, things like a Kong toy, and stuff it with their favorite foods so that they can still have that sensation of breaking open that food without actually wrecking any of our windows in the process. Now, these otters all also vary in age. Our youngest on exhibit is Ruby. She is 6 years old. And our oldest on exhibit is Rosa, and she is 23 years old. Now, Rosa has outlived what we would consider an average age for a female sea otter, which is about 10 to 15 years in the wild. But of course, here in the aquarium, she gets free food, free healthcare. What more could she need, right? Now, another cool thing about these otters is they are not just here to look cute. They are here to be ambassadors of their species. They truly get to help us with one of the most incredible things we have here at the aquarium, which is called a sea otter surrogacy program. We are the only institution in the world who is able to, when we find a stranded sea otter pup, we can bring them in here to the aquarium and have one of our otters act as their surrogate or foster mom, help raise that pup, and then we can tag and release that pup out into the wild to have them be a part of the wild population. Now, this is a really incredible thing we are able to do here to be able to help out with those wild population numbers. They're sitting at about 3,000 otters right now in the wild, which may seem like a lot, but is still a very small number compared to their historic populations. Now, these sea otters are super amazing to get to watch and see up close in the exhibit here. A very incredible thing that we get to have and that we get to work with these otters on a daily basis. Not only do we get to work with them all the time, we also get to feed them all the time because sea otters, they need to eat about 20% of their body weight every single day in order to sustain themselves. If you convert that into people food, that would be like each of us eating about 25 large pizzas every day all by ourselves. It is a lot of food that they need. For each one of them, it comes out to about 10 pounds of food every day. Now for this, we not only give them food in the feeding and training sessions, we also will give them various enrichments throughout the day, making sure that they are getting that full amount of food, but they aren't getting bored in the process. We want to keep them mentally and physically stimulated throughout all of their enjoyment of that delicious food. Now, all of our trainers are right here in the middle, again, still asking our girls to go to different places throughout the exhibit. And earlier on, I mentioned these are 4 of our 5 southern sea otters we have on exhibit. Our 5th otter is Selka, who is currently behind the scenes actually working with a pup, helping to teach them what it's like to be an otter. When that is done, we then will tag and release that pup into the wild, and Selka will return back to the exhibit with us here. But for now, getting to have these 4 girls here is pretty incredible to see. Now, our trainers are just about ready to wrap up this session. There we go. They have given the last bits of food to each of our otters, and they're going to head out of the exhibit here, taking some of those empty toys with them so that they can refill them and bring them back onto exhibit. Now, for the next few minutes, our otters will enjoy those last bits of food and also start to groom themselves. Very important that they get a good grooming in after each feeding and training session to make sure they have no bits of food left all over their face. With that about concludes our feeding here. If you have any questions, again, my name is Micalah, and I'm going to stick around here for just a few minutes. But if you're moving on, thank you so much for joining me, and have a great rest of your day today here at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Thank you.